Guilty on all counts. Hunter Biden is convicted on federal gun charges. Tonight, we're hearing from one of the jurors about how they reached a verdict.
After you went through all the evidence, there was no question.
There was no question.
Plus, President Biden arrives in Wilmington to support his only surviving son after we saw the First Lady holding hands with Hunter moments after his conviction. The CBS Evening News starts now. Tonight, the president changing his schedule before heading overseas and going to Delaware to see Hunter Biden just hours after his son is convicted. Good evening. I'm Norah O'Donnell. Thank you for being with us. That moment of embrace captured on camera at the National Guard Airport, now named after the president's late son, Beau, who died of cancer in 2015. This trial publicly aired some of the first family's most painful moments with just 5 months until the presidential election. The president says he will not pardon his son as Hunter faces up to 25 years in prison. And it all started with this X on a federal firearms application in 2018. Hunter Biden claimed he was not an unlawful user of or addicted to illegal drugs. The jury decided that was a lie. CBS's Weijia Jiang is in Wilmington, and she's going to start us off tonight.
Hunter Biden left court today holding hands with his wife and the First Lady, Dr. Jill Biden, just after hearing the verdict. He stood in court, stared straight ahead, showing little emotion. After deliberating for just under 3 hours over 2 days, the jury found him guilty of 3 felony counts for illegally possessing a gun while he was addicted to crack cocaine and for making false statements about using drugs when he bought the firearm in October 2018. We spoke to juror number 10, who asked not to be identified. When you first got the case, how split was the jury?
We took a vote, and the vote revealed it was 6-6. It was a split decision.
He told us after combing through all the evidence, the jury was quick to make a decision.
The biggest thing that he did was lied about not being a drug addict and not using cocaine and buying a gun.
Several women in Hunter Biden's life took the stand during the week-long trial, which exposed the depths of Hunter Biden's drug addiction, including his former lover, Hallie Biden, the widow of his brother Beau, who said she found the gun in Hunter's truck near drug residue. Surveillance video showed her throwing it away in a dumpster. But legal experts say the most damaging testimony was Hunter Biden's own words from his memoir, Beautiful Things.
All my energy revolved around smoking drugs and making arrangements to buy drugs, feeding the beast.
Special counsel David Weiss, who oversaw the investigation into Hunter Biden, said no one is above the law.
Ultimately, this case was not just about addiction. This case was about the illegal choices defendant made while in the throes of addiction.
President Biden, who, after the verdict, changed his schedule so he could rush to Hunter's side in Delaware, said in a statement, "I am the president, but I am also a dad. Jill and I love our son, and we are so proud of the man he is today." Although Hunter Biden faces up to 25 years in prison, that is unlikely for a first-time offender. The judge did not set a date for the sentencing, but said it's usually about 4 months from the verdict, putting it just weeks from the November election. President Biden has said he will not pardon his son. Nora.
Weijia Jiang, thank you. Now to some breaking news. 8 possible terrorists, all foreign nationals, arrested in New York, LA, and Philadelphia. And they came into the country across the southern border. CBS's Errol Barnett has new reporting on what led to the arrests.
8 individuals, all from the Central Asian country of Tajikistan, were arrested in Los Angeles, New York, and Philadelphia. They entered the United States this year and in 2023, crossing the Mexican border. They were vetted and allowed to remain in the country. CBS News has learned further investigation uncovered the men had possible ties to ISIS-K, the terror group which claimed responsibility for an attack at a Moscow concert hall that killed more than 140 people earlier this year. The FBI used a wiretap to track the men, and sources say what they discovered led authorities to quickly arrest them on immigration charges.
Typically, Bringing individuals in on immigration-related charges is the quickest and easiest way to take individuals back into custody, but that does not rule out additional terrorism-related charges further down the road.
FBI Director Christopher Wray warned earlier this year of a heightened threat level with thousands of people crossing the southern border.
Our most immediate concern has been that individuals or small groups will draw some kind of twisted inspiration from the events in the Middle East to carry out attacks here at home.
Sources tell CBS News that while authorities moved swiftly, there was no evidence of an active plot. Tonight, those men remain in ICE custody, Nora, pending extradition.
Errol Burnett with that breaking news. Thank you. Tonight, millions of Floridians are bracing for flash flooding with storms that could bring a month's worth of rain in a matter of days. Right now, travelers flying in and out of Miami International Airport are being hit with delays and cancellations, and many roads are a flooded mess. CBS' Manuel Bojorquez is in Miami, where it's going to rain all week long.
Tonight, tropical rainstorms in Florida are packing a punch. In Holiday, Florida, rain totals reached nearly 4 inches as roads there filled with water. The front end of the Chevy Impala became submerged on the side of the road. These men were driving by and helped push the car of another driver who got stuck in the flooding.
She didn't really know what she was doing, so we helped her steer out of traffic and get into the parking lot where she'll be safer.
Highways and streets also flooded in nearby Port Richey, where heavy rain and whipping winds were howling outside this auto dealership. The relentless storms made it hard to see for some drivers on I-95. In South Florida, Miami drivers and pedestrians are also trying to navigate through flooded roads.
I guess it's nice for a couple of days, and hopefully it's not that bad.
The weather is impacting air travel as well. At both Miami and Fort Lauderdale airports, there were more than 700 flight delays, causing a headache for some passengers.
We got here, thought we were on time, and now we are sitting and waiting.
The Miami area has been under a flash flood warning tonight, and Nora, this is just the beginning of what's expected to be a soggy week.
Manny Bojorquez, thank you so much. From Florida's torrential rains to the extreme heat from coast to coast, in Las Vegas, it is the 13th straight day of triple-digit temperatures. That's the hottest start to June on record. So let's bring in meteorologist Mike Bettis from our partners at the Weather Channel. He's going to start us off with news about the storms. Good evening, Mike.
Nora, good evening. The rain across Florida has been relentless. It will continue to do that. And you can see our virtual view here in Miami shows nothing but rain in the forecast and even some heavy thunderstorms over the next several days. We're tapping into deep tropical moisture that's just surging, especially into central and south Florida. Some locations over the next few days could get as much as a foot of rain. Helpful for the drought that's there, but could lead to some flooding as well. Other big story that we're following is the amount of heat that's expanding across the west here. 112 in Phoenix for us tomorrow, 109 in Las Vegas with excessive heat warnings in effect. And some of that heat does spread eastward through the week. Temperatures could be 5 to 10 degrees above average as we get toward the weekend here. Nor some beach locations will be excellent. And toward the Ohio River Valley, temperatures flirt with 90.
Mike Bettis, thank you so much. Now we'll look at tonight's other top stories, starting with that attack on 4 American teachers in China. A 55-year-old is under arrest, and authorities now say it was an isolated stabbing. CBS's Roxana Saberi reports tonight from their small school in Iowa.
Police say the 4 instructors from Cornell College in Mount Vernon, Iowa, who were teaching at a university in Jilin, China, were in a park when a man started stabbing them. Tonight, that suspect is behind bars, and the 4 victims are recovering in a Chinese hospital, according to Jilin police. Officials have not released the victims' names, but one victim has been identified by his brother as David Zabner.
Adam Zabner told CBS News David spent a year teaching here at Cornell College and that the group was on a trip to a local temple when they were attacked.
The White House said today it's deeply concerned about the incident.
Now to some breaking news. 4 people, including the alleged gunman, were shot at a food court in downtown Atlanta. CBS's Dave Malkoff is at the scene with the new details.
The shooting happened around 2:15 p.m. today in the Peachtree Center Mall here in downtown Atlanta. Witnesses say people ran for their lives. The suspected gunman, a convicted felon, was shot by an off-duty officer who jumped into action after hearing the shots. Liliana Silva works nearby.
And somebody screamed there's a shooting, there's a shooter, run.
Within minutes, police had the area locked down and first responders were seen evacuating the injured on stretchers. The victims, 2 women and a man, were taken to the hospital. Police say this investigation is ongoing.
And tonight, UCLA is bracing for more protests ahead of the school's commencement. Here's CBS's Carter Evans.
Well, it's finals week here at UCLA, but Nora, it's not just grades and graduation on people's minds, especially after what happened here on campus last night with the latest round of college protests. About 25 pro-Palestinian demonstrators were arrested after a mostly peaceful protest became chaotic. Some carrying fake corpses through campus, reciting the names of people who've died in Gaza. UCLA is still reeling from a dramatic incident last month when more than 200 were arrested.
And thanks to our CBS News teams across the country. The Atlanta police go on a high-speed chase after a hijacked transit bus. That's next. And then later in Eye on America, a California community rises from the ashes of a devastating wildfire. Breaking tonight, a suspect is in custody after a wild bus chase in the Atlanta area. Police say they responded to an argument on the bus, and when they got there, the hijacked bus took off with passengers on board. The bus hit several vehicles during the chase and even drove on the wrong side of the road. All right, a deadly wildfire nearly wiped out a California town. Next in Eye on America, we'll introduce you to the residents helping to rebuild a stronger, safer, and more resilient community. So far this year, nearly 42,000 acres have burned in California wildfires, with last week's Coral Fire the biggest at 14,000 acres. And that puts 2018's Camp Fire into perspective at more than 10 times the size of the Coral Fire. It was also the state's deadliest. Nearly 6 years later, victims of the Camp Fire are still putting their lives back together, whether they chose to rebuild or start over somewhere else. Here's CBS's Jonathan Vigliotti from Paradise, California, with tonight's Eye on America.
95% of Paradise surrendered to flame in the 2018 Camp Fire. The once lush landscape covered in pine trees stripped bare. But from the ashes, a new breed of American pioneer was born.
Hi, oh my God. It's so good to see you.
Kylie Warble and her daughter Ellie were one of the first families to return.
A lot of people don't want to come back here. I had to stay here.
We first met the Warbles back in 2019, 6 months after the firestorm destroyed everything. They barely escaped with their lives.
Why are you crying?
Because it's so sad. What's sad? We're talking about everything that happened to us.
Between then and now, how has life for both of you changed?
Even though we lost everything in the fire, it's nice to have something new.
You heal every single day. It's nice to get back in our hometown because then it's like you get a fresh start on life.
And thousands of people have come back for a fresh start. In fact, Paradise was the fastest growing city in California for the past 4 years.
Is it a crazy idea to move back to a community that has been decimated by wildfire?
You know, it's not a crazy idea, and people who do decide to rebuild in a place like Paradise, they're often even safer than they were before the fire because that place has already been burned.
Jennifer Gray Thompson is founder of After the Fire, a nonprofit that helps people decide if they should rebuild.
Well, people do live in the woods now because it's naturally occurring affordable housing often. So when we tell people don't live in the woods anymore, I say, let's actually help the people now who are not fire affected to actually remain, in place.
Today, fire threatens nearly 40% of all homes here in California. Well-intentioned firefighters were first trained to put out wildfires beginning in the early 1900s to protect a growing population. But all of that dead vegetation left behind, worsened by drought, led to a fuel source that, if sparked, can now be explosive.
In Paradise, efforts are focused on protecting against future fires. All power lines will be buried underground, and all residents must also remove vegetation too close to their homes. Federal grants are offered to homeowners who use fire-resistant materials to build their homes.
Do you feel like the new Paradise is more resilient if there was a wildfire nearby?
Yes, I do. The likelihood of seeing another wildfire in Paradise, it already devastated our whole community.
Not everyone agrees enough to return. While Paradise has seen record growth, the current population is only a third of what it was before the fire.
Paradise is a microcosm of just broader issues that our nation's going to have to grapple with more.
Researcher Ryan Miller is tracking our nation's growing climate migration and the conflict it's causing.
I'm hoping with some of the work we understand from Paradise, we can get ahead of some of those issues and prevent those disasters from happening later down the road.
But for Miller, this issue isn't just academic, it's deeply personal.
This was before we even got back to the house.
We'll bring you that part of the story tomorrow. For Eye on America, I'm Jonathan Vigliotti in Paradise, California.
A mother's tribute to her daughter and the community, nearly 12 years after the Sandy Hook shooting. That's next.
This portion of the CBS Evening News is sponsored by Olay, your best skin yet.
Finally, tonight's Heart of America, which takes us to Sandy Hook, Connecticut. Tomorrow, seniors will walk in Newtown High School's graduation ceremony, where they will honor their 20 classmates who were killed in the 2012 Sandy Hook shooting. 6-year-old Catherine Violet Hubbard was one of those first graders. In her honor, Catherine's family created an animal sanctuary in her memory and as a place of community healing. We spoke to Catherine's mom, Jenny.
My hope for their graduation is that we acknowledge that this is part of their fabric, but also give them permission to go and soar from this season of their life.
Well, the Catherine Violet Hubbard Animal Sanctuary and the families of Newtown, they are tonight's Heart of America. We are thinking of those families. And that is tonight's CBS Evening News. I'm Nora O'Donnell. Good night.